Hello everybody, Dr. Doyle here, and I am here to do an example that we didn't quite get to in class, and so I hope this video is helpful. And in this example, I'm going to create an algorithm with loops, go through quite a few steps, first solving it by hand just to figure out the math, then creating an algorithm, and I'll do that as a flow chart, and then I will show you how I translate the flow chart into MATLAB. Remember that all these steps, the way that I'm going to show is not the only way to do it. There's multiple ways that you can accomplish the same goal and have the correct answer. I'm going to give you a little caveat here. I've got a garage door being installed on the other side of the wall to my left, so if you hear a little extra banging, that's what's going on. But got good light, so here's the video. Okay, so here, just to remind you, is the example. We're trying to save money for a car to start a high yield. So we start a high yield savings account with an initial deposit of $1,000 back on February 1st of 2020. The account earns 5% interest per year, which is paid monthly at a rate of 5/12% per month. We're going to deposit $100 additional on the last day of each month. And so I really want to know how much money is going to be at the end of in the account at the end of June 2023. This should be 23, just before you deposit that last $100. So basically, when you graduate, most of you, right when you graduate, how much money will be on that account? Will you be able to buy a car? Okay, so we're going to go through these steps. Okay. So we're going to start here by looking at the problem and trying to figure out what we're solving for. So I'm going to write some knowns. I'm having Apple Pencil problems, so bear with me. So what do we know? We know that on February 1st, we deposit $1,000, okay? And then we'll stick with February. On February 28th, we're going to earn some money. So over that month, I've earned some money. And I've earned 5/12%. Okay? And so that's going to be added to our account. So that means at the end of February, I have 1,000 plus 1,000 times 5/12. That's a percent. So I'm going to divide that by 100. Okay? And then, if you do that math, you're going to get that you have earned $4. So I have 1,004 and some cents. So $1,004.17. Then I also add $100 because it's the end of the month. So now on March 1st, when I wake up, I have $11,04.17. Okay. Now let's figure out at the end of March. So at the end of March, on March 30th, I will have $11,04.17 plus 5/12%, which is 5/12/100, which will give us $11,0877. Then I add $100 to that, and I end with $12,0877. Okay, and we will continue like this until the first question asks, how much do we have at the end of August 2020? So how much do we have at the end of August 2020? That's what we're looking for right now. So I'm going to scribble out that math here and come back and explain it to you. Okay, so here we have a table with each month, and so I'm representing this amount as the amount in the account at the end of the month before I add my $100, and then I have a column where I've added my $100. Okay, so this $1,004.77 we got by taking that 1,000 and multiplying by 1 plus 5/12%. Then I add $100. And so for March, the $11,0937 is the $11,0477 times 1 plus 5/12%, and so on. And so this is the first question that it asks. How much money is in the account at the end of August 2020? And you have $1638.96 before you put in that $100. Or if you take into account the $100, it's $1738.96. Okay, so that ends the first part. So our next part is to generalize the equation. And so what I mean by that is to be able to figure out sort of how we're doing and what we're doing so we can work towards making it into an algorithm. So I'm going to come back up to this August number, and I'm going to call that August, right? And how do we get that August number? We got that August number, whoops, did not mean to do that, by taking the July value and adding $100. And then what did we do? We took that value and we multiplied by 1 plus 5 over 12%, which is the interest. Okay? And how do we get the July one? Well, the July one, we started with the June. We added $100, and then we multiplied by 1 plus 5 over 12%. So if I generalize that, I could say that some EOM, end of month value, end of month, is equal to the end of month previous, right, plus $100, and I take that whole thing and multiply it by 1 plus 5 over 12%. Okay? So again, if I'm looking at August, my August, that 1638.96, is equal to July plus $100. That all sits in the bank account for 1 month and earns the interest. So at the end, I have 5 over 12% added to it, the original amount. Okay, so now I'm going to generalize this even further. I'm going to do this in red. And I'm going to say that in my bank account at some current time I have what was in the bank account at some previous time I, plus the $100 that I added, and that whole thing is multiplied by 1 plus 5 over 12%. So here is my generalization of that equation. The next thing I'm going to do is represent this as a flow chart. And so what is this doing? This is starting, so I'm going to write start. And then I'm setting some value, let's call this my initial value, to $1,000. And then the next thing I'm doing is I'm setting my bank account number as the initial value. Then I'm starting this loop, and we'll come back to figure out how many times we need to do this loop. It is going to be a for loop for I equals 1 to something. We'll come back to that. And every time inside that loop, I'm going to find my amount. My bank of I is going to be equal to my bank of I minus 1. I'm going to need to make a bigger box here. Plus 100, and that whole thing is multiplied by 1 times 5 over 12. Okay, then I loop back up, and I do this again and again until I'm done, and then I end. Maybe before we end, we will output the final bank before we end. Okay, so a couple things I'm going to fix here actually. So I've started this as bank starting at 1 and going to some amount. But really, the first time through, if I started at 1, what's going to happen is MATLAB is going to get mad because it doesn't recognize an index of 0. So really what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and change this and start this. This is just because I know I'm using MATLAB. I'm going to start this at 2, okay? Then I need to figure out how far to go. So remember, I'm starting in February 2020, and I'm going all the way until June of 2023, the year you graduate, the month you graduate. So I need to know how many months this is. You will find out that this is 40 total months. So we are going to do this from I equals 2 to 40. So we'll do this 40 times, and then when we end it, we will have the total amount in the bank account. So now I'm going to show you how to do this in MATLAB. All right, welcome back. So I'm back now to show you how I'm going to translate this from my algorithm into MATLAB. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write a description at the top. And this is my bank account calculation. And so I'm going to start with my initial deposit. I'm going to call that initial is equal to 1,000. And I'll put my semicolon. Remember, MATLAB doesn't really care about units, so putting in a dollar sign is not going to help us in any way. And then I will say that my bank is equal to that initial amount. And then I'm going to start my loop. And so this is going to be a for loop. And remember that we're going to start it at 2 and end it at 40. And at any point, bank of I forgot something on the line, so I need to say I equals 2 to 40. Bank of I is going to be bank of I minus 1 plus 100. And we're going to multiply that whole thing times 1 plus 5 over 12 divided by 100. And then end it. And then I'm going to write an fprintf line and say on June 30th, 2023, there is percent 0.2f. I'm going to add a dollar sign here so that it shows as an amount in the account. And then I'm going to put \n so it does a new line, and then I'm going to tell it to put bank of I. Okay, so let's see if that works. I'm going to run this. When I do, it's going to ask me to save it first, which I will do. I'm going to call it bank. I'm going to change the folder so MATLAB's looking on the right place. And on June 30th, 2023, there's going to be $5,418.89 in the account. So there we go. The last part of this asks if you can change the algorithm to determine how long it will take to have $6,500 in the account. Okay, so I'd like you to think about that. Think about how you would do that. And if you have further questions on how you would do that, feel free to ask me. I'll give you a hint that you'll use a while loop. But I'm going to let you try that out for yourself.